in the squadron. They called him Bullets, but we call him Greg Kelly. Greg Kelly is on the air
on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
It's kind of fascinating to think about that Donald Trump has had one of the most remarkable political weeks of his political career, and he hasn't uttered a word. He hasn't said one thing publicly. And so much is happening and so much is coming together. It's kind of fascinating. And I loved it, actually. You know, maybe I'm giving this convention short shrift. I think it's beautiful when former enemies kind of come together to join a greater cause, right? And Rubio used to be a big critic, Nikki Haley, critic, Ted Cruz. Ted Cruz gave a great speech. Do we finally forgive Ted Cruz for 2016 when he kind of came out and gave the middle finger to Trump? He did. That was, anyway, I forgive him. It's, he learned his lesson, and he learned what the lesson is, that Trump is a great man, and he has flaws like everybody else, and, nobody's perfect, and God can do amazing things through the least of us, right? Now, why is it that they had to, bring a car to break down a fence at the scene of the shooting? Did you see that? There are like 8 cops, and the fence, I guess, is locked. There's a door on the fence, and it's locked. It's a regular fence, like the kind you climb over. I think they call it a cyclone fence, right? That any kid and any fit cop could climb over. But they get a car, and the car's ramming the fencing so they can get through. Look, sometimes those fences aren't that easy to climb over if they're like kind of prickly at the top, right? Sometimes they're easy, sometimes they're not. But I think 9 million illegal aliens have found out a way to get into this country. You guys couldn't figure out how to get over that fence? It's, All right. Town manager explains Butler PD role in security. I've seen this guy all over the place, because, well, the Secret Service is coming for him, and he's saying, wait a minute. We did what we were told, and we didn't fail here, and I want to know, well, when the hell are they going to trust us with some information? They didn't even trust U.S. senators, United States senators. Mike Lee, 3:00. They have about 50 lawmakers on the phone, and they're ready to be briefed by the Secret Service. And the Secret Service basically does some bureaucratic trickery, and doesn't tell them a damn thing. Hey, so Joe Biden, big news here. Democrats are acknowledging that Joe Biden is leaving. Joe Biden will not be the nominee. How about that? Look, I know some people say this is not great. We knew we could beat Joe Biden, and they know we can beat Joe Biden. Oh, do they know it? It's one of the desperate move. So I guess I won't be fully satisfied until he resigns from office. And part of me, almost this is personal, because I know what a bad man this is. I know he's a bad man, and God can use bad men for greater purposes as well. And sometimes the bad man won't even know it. So, I don't know. Do we want him to stay? I did make this prediction. This is in January of 2023. And none of this comes as a surprise to me. Go ahead.
You know who else should quit now? The ultimate him. He's not going to be the Democrat nominee, I can tell you that. I know for sure the Democrat nominee will not be Joe. And it is because of this file situation and a whole lot of other things.
A whole lot of other things. I said it a bunch of different times, too. I just can't find it. We got hours and hours, like hundreds of hours of tape to go through. I just can't remember. And I made some graphics, and we did a whole thing. And I'm looking back. Where were you when you found out that President Trump had been shot? Do you remember? I'll never forget. I was actually in the studio just down the hall here. I had come to work because I left my Apple Pen hanging around. I just left it. The Apple Pen that comes with the iPad, and it's the most losable object since they came out with the earbuds. Also highly losable. So I didn't lose it. I left it at work, and I came in, and I was just, picking it up, and I got a call from Maureen, my friend, talented makeup artist, big time MAGA, and friend of my whole family's. We love her. But she was very upset, and she goes, "Do you know that Trump is just shot?" And it was 6:14. I just checked the call log. He was shot at 6:12. She calls me 2 minutes later. And, I'm just trying to go back to my reaction. My reaction, number one, was inevitability. Like, this was going to happen. I wasn't surprised. I was deeply, deeply concerned. But the only thing I wanted to do right then and there was get to a TV, turn it on, and assess it for myself. Was he shot? Was he shot at? What happened? You know, and it was all like, it wasn't emotional. It was just like, what happened? What happened? What happened? What happened? Okay, there he is. What's going on? He's getting up. He's getting up. Is he hit? Is he there? Oh God, there's blood. I couldn't, he looks like he's pumping his fist, and that looked amazing. But I thought back to Ronald Reagan, and Ronald Reagan almost died when he was shot. And I do remember that Ronald Reagan was able to walk into the hospital. They did not know that, at first he didn't know he was shot. He thought he just, got his, roughed up because the cops put him in the car so fast. The Secret Service, like, they pushed him in hard, really hard. And unlike with Trump also, they, hit the gas immediately. That vehicle gets the hell out of there. And, that didn't happen once Trump was in the vehicle. Did you notice that? It's kind of like, it's like 2 miles per hour, like you're leaving a baseball game at the end of the night. You know how everyone's driving slow. Speaking of slow, Joe Biden getting on Air Force One, the baby steps. And he can't even make it up the baby steps. That's when he knew it was over, probably. He knows it's done. But this has been in the works for a long time. And it's suspicious that I knew he was going to Rehoboth for a beach getaway on yesterday, that he was going to Rehoboth. He was there last night into tonight. And people were asking, why is he going to a beach getaway midweek? And then he comes down with COVID. So I knew he was and people said, this is weird. Hey, you know what the doctor said? He has a runny nose, a slight fever, and general malaise. He's suffering from general malaise. How about that one? Malaise? General malaise? Sound familiar? Anybody remember the malaise speech from Jimmy Carter? Yeah, when he made everybody feel bad about being an American, right? He tried to I remember I was in 4th grade. I'm like, man, what's with this guy? I feel like I'm in trouble. Like, he was just talking down to us. It was so depressing. Kevin, back to you. Sorry about that. What were you saying about Joe Biden and black people?
Oh, yeah. Like I said, there was a video circulating, and he was saying, it's kind of along those lines of, you don't vote for me, you ain't black. It's kind of teetering on that line. But he basically say he's losing black support because he can't walk through the projects, and you got to check out the clip yourself and assess it. But I was just reading the comment just to get a feel of how everybody's feeling. They kind of like, ain't that kind of racist? Ain't it? I was just looking at the comments, and they slander him for it. And I know, like, the Democrat, because I'm in all type of neighborhoods, and I shout out to Curtis Lewa, because I know he go through like rough neighborhoods and stuff. And when I just like to get like how you were saying the other day, you like to observe people, and you kind of not being biased, but you kind of know where they lean to. I do the same thing. That's why I was laughing in my head. And I was like, I do the same thing. And sometimes I question people like in the hood, and I'd be like, yo, what's your take on Trump or Biden or whatever? And like, of course, certain people and demographics say, oh yeah, Biden the greatest thing and all that nonsense. But a lot of people, Trump getting a lot of black support and Spanish support. And I know the Democrats know it. These mayors in these cities know it. The governors know it. And I guess they just panicking. And I think they haven't probably seen nothing like this since none of our lifetimes, or like our grandparents' lifetimes. But Trump doing good in the black neighborhoods, and the Democrats, they just shaking in their boots, I guess. But that video you should check out, Greg. It's going to circulate, like, other people. You'll see. All
right, I'm looking for it right now. There is a video I did see, kinda along. Well, Joe Biden and confused.
It says he can't walk in black neighborhoods because he can't walk in the projects no more. It's like you'll see.
Did he say it? Did he say it a long time ago and it was just discovered, or did
no?
He said it recently. It must have been on the BET interview. The clip that I saw from the BET interview, actually I saw it this morning and I got it right here, where he this has happened before. Lloyd Austin, his Secretary of Defense, former Army general, happens to be black, and Joe Biden has never been able to say his name. He always forgets, and It looks like he did this time too. Go ahead. Yes, please.
It's all about treating people with dignity. And it's about making sure that, look, I mean, for example, look at the heat I'm getting because I named the Secretary of Defense, the black man. I named Ketanji Brown. I mean, because of the people I've named.
You see, did he say the black man? Oh, I mean, he kind of, I mean, look, this guy's a bit of a racist, to be honest. He is. Look at the company he kept in the Senate, Strom Thurmond and the rest. This is before Strom had his reawakening and all that nonsense. Can I hear all right, this is, I think, what you're talking about, Kevin. Let's check it out.
And one thing does change. It's not an excuse, an explanation. I would ordinarily be going through black neighborhoods on the foot, working through the neighborhoods. I have a tradition. I close every campaign, no matter what campaign, going into the projects and going down the east side. And, hey, Joe, well, how you doing? Everybody, well, just because they're my friends, let them know I'm still there. We can't do that now. Not because of the black community, because it's too dangerous for me to be out walking unaccompanied. So what I'm doing now is trying to keep in touch with as many of my black constituents and letting people know that I'm available. I'm available. It's a reason why I got involved in politics in the first place. Not a joke. Not a joke.
Not a joke. What? Shut up. I mean, you're going to be very available, Joe, because you're leaving office soon. All right. You can write letters. You can tell stories about corn pop and all that stuff. All you want, right? We know you. All right. Now, the headline there for me, Kevin, is how miserable he sounded. I mean, that was bad. He's at death's door. Sorry, but that's really bad initially. Kind of cleared his throat at the end, but I don't take that to be a racist thing. He said it out loud explicitly. Like, I'm not saying it's a black neighborhood. I can't just walk around like I used to because I'm president now. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense. It's just like a pandering though. Especially when the keyword, whenever he say not a joke, he's lying. That's just one thing I realize.
You're so right about that. Why? Like every time, it's not hyperbole. It's hyperbole.
Thanks, Greg.
You bet, Kevin. See you later. That was a good one. That was interesting. Yeah, it is like, oh man, I keep in touch with black constituents. What about constituents? What about everybody? Kamala Harris is there at the podium. Has she given any threats, any hints, what she wants to do? The Democrat Party has a huge problem, of course, but I think they have a plan. They're not telling Joe to get out, without a plan. And something, I can't believe that plan is Kamala, although then maybe again it is. It seems like they know they're going to lose. We'll give it a fighting chance with Kamala. She was a laughingstock when she first became vice president. Excuse me, but she's kind of calmed down since, right? She's kind of calmed down since. We're going to pump up the volume, all right? There's Kamala. Is she laughing?
We're too busy watching what you're doing to hear what you're saying.
What?
And let us unpack that last point about the economy. Yeah. This race can be boiled down to a single question. Who fights for you?
Oh, yeah, you do, right? You and Joe.
Now, we know whose side our President Joe Biden is on.
He doesn't even know where the hell he is. Stop. Oh, wait. She's telling the Scranton Joe BS story.
And he has never forgotten where he came from.
That was 90 years ago.
And I have been a first-hand witness.
It's 100 years ago. Shut up already. I can't believe it. He understands my problems because his dad got fired once in 1953. Are you? It's kind of funny. I'm enjoying myself. I'll be right back.
Greg Kelly
on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Greg Kelly, entertaining and informative
on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Wait a second. What the hell is this? My friend is telling me there's a new. Hey, Elon Musk is one of the greatest guys in the world right now. He is having fun. He is spending money big time, $45 million a month for Trump, right, to get him reelected, to get him elected. And he's also pointing out the insanity. He's on top of everything, including this Secret Service debacle or worse. He said he played that clip of the woman saying, it was a sloped roof. That's why we couldn't put anybody up there. And he called it idiocy. and safetyism run amok. I never heard that word, safetyism. I've heard of safety first. I've heard of, be safe. Safetyism. That's kind of a thing, right? Safetyism. We overdo it with the safety. Everything's got to be safe. You want to be totally, completely safe, stay in bed, all right? And that's not even safe. There's an inherent amount of risk in everything, and you weigh it whether it's manageable or not. And I think it's manageable for a grown adult law enforcement officer to be on a roof that slants slightly. Okay. You ever see the emergency service cops here in New York City when somebody wants to jump off the Brooklyn Bridge and the cables and the ropes they go up with? That's another thing. Joe Biden doesn't think that cops should be doing that. Did you know that? He thinks social workers should be doing that.
Yeah. They show up, the cops, they start blasting. Their answer to every problem is to start shooting.
Like, what kind of primitive person are you? That's what you think about cops, huh? Everything Joe Biden learned about cops, I think he learned on Starsky and Hutch. All right. Things are a bit more, evolved at this point. Okay. They just start blasting, social workers, no cops, more social workers. Good luck with that. You're going to get a social worker to climb the freaking Brooklyn Bridge to prevent, because guess what? Some of these guys, they change their mind and you got to rescue them. Or they say, I'm jumping and I'm taking you with me. Right? Oh, there's a really nasty story I heard once, but it's gallows humor. Should I say it? It's really, well, when you're a cop, you deal with this stuff all the time, right? And, you got to process death a little bit differently, So there's a famous story of, a guy about to jump off of a bridge or something like that, or a building. And the cops are up there trying to talk him out of it. I can't tell it. There's a big ethnic component. I can't go there. I can't. Sorry. How do I get out of this? Jimmy, you're going to help me. What's up?
All right. Hi, Greg. I got a question and a comment. Do you think, I know President Trump received a Purple Heart from a retired lieutenant in 2016. Do you think he'd be eligible for one now, or some other medal or award?
Nah.
In the capacity
No.
No.
I mean, Purple Heart. Let's look up the Purple Heart. Purple Heart. There's probably some federal civilian award that he's eligible for. The Purple Heart is a United States military decoration awarded in the name of the president to those wounded or killed while serving on or after April 5th, 1917. Military award. It's a military award. And let's face it, he's not the commander-in-chief right now, right?
Yeah.
So not, and he's not in the employ of the federal service. Hey, he doesn't need a medal. You know what I mean? What's a medal when you think about it? Thank you.
Greg Kelly
on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Greg Kelly, entertaining and informative
on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
So Mark Helprin, the great political journalist. Hey, that's Kiss, our new theme song. We can turn that down a notch because a lot's going down. Joe Biden may be going down. It's wild what's happening. Mark Helprin, great political journalist. Go to walkingduck.com/Mark. walkingduck.com/Mark for the greatest political content literally in the country. Mark, thanks for being with us. What the hell is going on with Biden?
Greg, thank you for your kind words. It's a little weird to be in Milwaukee on the day Donald Trump is going to make history, third time nominated, with a speech that his campaign promises to be a blockbuster, and yet you're rightly, focused on Joe Biden. It's a better story, and in some ways the more important story. I think you're seeing now a lot of leaks coming out, and I say leaks in air quotes. I don't know if you saw my fingers go up, but this is an attempt now to force him out. So you're seeing them putting out, well, Barack Obama is now concerned, and Pelosi and Schumer are telling him he can't win. They're trying to force his hand. But two things to keep in mind about this, and most people I know think he's going to get out, but there's still some people who think he won't. And I'm not sure, because the clock's ticking, and it's not just a matter of Joe Biden saying, you know what, I'm not going to run. There's a lot of subsidiary decisions that are in some ways more important, or at least as important. Does Harris run? Does she run with Biden's endorsement? Does she run where they try to say no one else can run and it's just hers in a coronation? Who's her running mate going to be? There's so many questions that I think I know Joe Biden is not going to be uninterested in. And so Nancy Pelosi, who's really the leader of the effort to get him through some sort of combination of carrots and sticks, she's thinking about the day after. The day after, the minute after he gets out, if he does, what do they do about Harris? What do they do about all these other questions? So number one, you got to think, is Biden going to be involved in these decisions? And how long is it going to take him to make those? He's a horrible decision maker. And it's possible that he'll say, yeah, I'll get out, but now let's have a 19-day discussion about these other issues. And then number two, I think everybody assumes if Biden gets out, it's Harris because the party can't, say to a black woman, vice president, no, you're not our nominee. I'm not sure Harris will want it. Think about it from her point of view. She knows she's a bad manager. She knows she's deeply unpopular. She knows if she runs and loses 30, 40 states to Trump, which is possible, that and they lose the House, lose the Senate and don't take the House, she'll take a lot of the blame for that. So don't assume for sure, I think, that she will want it. And, of course, if they both step aside, she might be president, first woman president. Biden both steps aside from the nomination of the presidency. But if they both step aside, then what? Then who do the elites in the party, the smoke-filled rumors, who do they want at that point?
All right, man, this is so wild. Now, the Trump thing is obviously still big. I mean, my God, survived the assassination attempt. And, I've been looking at it, but I want to come back. Yeah, let's stay on this for a second. You said Nancy Pelosi, all these people have gone to him, but what happens next? Don't they know I think Nancy Pelosi would not go to President Biden if she did not know what was going to happen next. So they have a plan, don't they?
Well, I don't know that they do. I think they're working on it. They certainly have something in mind. And Nancy Pelosi is masterful, and part of her mastery is playing her cards close to her vest. My gut is, from knowing how she views Kamala Harris and from knowing the reality that Kamala Harris would almost certainly be worse for the House Democrats, like on Long Island, than Biden would. So my guess is she has a plan. My guess is that her plan involves not having Biden or Harris at the top of the ticket. That's my sense. But what her actual plan is beyond that and how she plans to convince Biden and Harris of this, I do not know.
Well, and let's ponder a couple of things, because politics is sometimes about carrots and sticks and trade-offs and favors and fear of certain things, fear of certain penalties. Do this or else that could happen. I actually believe that Joe Biden is severely compromised. There's plenty of circumstantial evidence. Okay. Do you think that they would even convey to him, like, if you don't leave, you don't put it past these people to get a little bit hardball, like, Joe, you got to do this because if you don't, X, Y, or Z could happen.
I think there's one piece of hardball, and this is reporting, not speculation. The hardball is the donors. The donors have been calling Pelosi, begging her, the big donors, what you and I euphemistically and with affection call the fat cats. They've been going to her, say, you got to get Biden out of the race. Some saying we got to go with Harris. Some say we got to go to Harris because of the black vote. Some say we got to go to Harris because she can actually win. Some say you got to get Harris out too. So they're split, but they want Biden out. So he's already losing a lot of money, and you're not going to get him out reading in poll numbers. Partly because he's in denial and he can cherry pick, find polls that look less dire. But also he knows Michael Dukakis was ahead by 17 points against George H.W. Bush in the late summer, and Bush won. The only way to get him out, because he's old school, is to say, you'll have no money. You will have no money. You will be so badly outspent that means you can't win. I think that's already gotten his attention. I know it has. I know he's focused on that from conversations that people have had with him. And I think Pelosi can say to both of them, you want to run for president in 2024? No one's going to give you a dime, and I'm going to make sure of it. I think that's her hardball card that she can play.
Wow. Let's go to Trump for a moment. It's kind of wild when you think about it. He's had the most remarkable week, maybe, of his career. I mean, well, yeah, and it's been very interesting. And
attempted assassination. He's having a hit show on NBC.
Well, yes, but he hasn't even uttered a word all week long. And he's
the Marcel of American politics.
It is extraordinary. Do you see there's obviously would this be happening right now, this conversation with Joe Biden, if Donald Trump hadn't been shot on Saturday and all of the goodwill that comes with that? Is that what brought the renewed urgency to this Biden situation?
No. First of all, I want to make sure that the WABC team is going to put my Marceau quote out on social media.
All right, hold on a second. Now he was some mime or something like that who couldn't talk.
He was a mime, and the only time he ever uttered a word in public was when he was in Mel Brooks' silent movie, which had no dialogue in it except Marceau saying the word "no," which in French is spelled N-O-N. Anyway,
hey, if you're wondering, everybody,
a little bit of a diversion.
Our friend Mark Helprin went to Harvard. Okay,
yeah.
He's
very nothing to do with Harvard.
But you're very cultured. You're very cultured and smart. We like that about you. But keep going.
Citing a Mel Brooks movie, I'm not sure it counts as culture, but okay, Greg. I think the opposite is true. With all due respect to what you said, which is the assassination attempt halted for a little bit the conversation within the Democratic Party of Joe must go. It only picked up because the clock is ticking. They had to push back the virtual roll call for Biden's nomination a week, but the clock is still ticking quite quickly. So I think the assassination attempt gave Biden a little bit of a reprieve, but the reality is it's not just his poll numbers are bad. They do not think he has the mental capacity, or that the voters see him having the mental capacity. When 70% of your own voters say you're not qualified to be president, you're not going to win. Forget inflation, forget immigration, forget Israel. If 70% and forget all of Trump's problems, if 70% of your voters think you shouldn't be president, you're not going to win. And they look at that in their own data and their own focus groups. So it wasn't going to stop, but the clock was running down, and then he got a little bit of a several-day reprieve. But now Pelosi is back because she's determined. And Nancy Pelosi determined is like Greg Kelly with a taco if he hasn't eaten in 8 hours. It's just going to happen. He's going to eat the taco. She's going to do this. She never fails in stuff like this. She knows how to count votes. She understands Joe Biden. As I said, the question is the day after. What is her plan for the day after? The minute Biden says, I'm out, how does she avoid having Harris be the nominee? And I don't know what her plan is for that.
I'll have everything inside the taco. I don't eat the shell. I'm cutting carbs, but I'll totally eat the.
You know what? It's a salad. It's a salad bowl. I should have said salad bowl.
25th Amendment, is that remotely
no.
At play?
No.
Okay. And the Trump team, they're on cloud nine right now. I mean, they're not making too many mistakes.
It's the best run convention I remember covering. It's very difficult to program in the room for the audience in the room and for TV. And of course, you need to program well for the audience in the room so the people on TV see enthusiasm and hear the cheers and see the smiley, happy faces. So they've done a brilliant job of programming. And my Democratic sources say the same thing. It's just a professional, analytical thing. It's not a partisan thing. I don't think it's bravado. They'll run against Trump. They'll run against Biden. They'll run against Harris. They'll run against Shapiro and Whitman. They feel very confident about where they are. I'd say they're obviously, I know, the unknown. I mean, if they suddenly found themselves running against Shapiro or Gavin Newsom, they'd have to rethink things. But they're very comfortable running against Biden or Harris.
Mark, final thing. You've been around presidential politics for a long time, and your overall take on the security situation, the lapses, Saturday and beyond. I mean, just what do you think's going on here?
I'll say three things about it. One is, unlike you, I say respectfully, I'm not a conspiracy theorist. There's way too many things that are messed up about this. Way too many. The lapses, how this guy exploited an inexplicable number of lapses, it just doesn't make sense. There's nothing about his background, what little we know, that suggests he could somehow magically have exploited the lapses, number one. Number two, the fact that the head of the Secret Service and Secretary of Homeland Security haven't been fired is insane, or quit in disgrace. It's insane. They have one mission. It's a massive failure. No matter what the explanation, it's a massive failure. And lastly, the country needs to come together around this. President Trump is going to make an effort at that tonight. I think the Democrats they're having an emotional breakdown because they had to go several days where their animating feeling and their rhetoric wasn't about Donald Trump being Hitler. But I don't know how they're going to sustain, particularly if no matter how the Biden situation resolves. I think it's going to be very difficult to live in a country where half the people look at the assassination attempt with gratitude for the hand of God saving Donald Trump, and the other half, somewhere in their hearts, feel like we have to go back to attacking him. Yeah, we feel bad that someone tried to kill him, but we have to go back to attacking him. I think that we're on a very, very perilous collision course here of emotion and political rhetoric and blame that I'm truly concerned about.
But he might be able to do a lot to fix that tonight, and I have a feeling he will.
Greg, the people who live on the Upper West Side with me, there's nothing he can do tonight. They're not available to him.
Well, I wish they weren't so close-minded. And the last thing, Mark, and it's really just an observation, but you're so smart and you have such wisdom and experience, and I'd like to ask you to really keep an open mind, and everybody in the journalist world, because look, we didn't have crackpots yelling and screaming that Donald Trump was Hitler or a threat to democracy, the Constitution. We had the President of the United States, the Vice President of the United States. We had some of the most important and prominent people in America saying this man must be stopped at all costs. And you look at that oath of office that these people take, you will support and defend the Constitution from all enemies, foreign and domestic. I mean, the idea that he is viewed as a domestic enemy is not crazy because they say it all the time. And if you take that oath, and I don't know if you see where I'm going with this, but and how close the Secret Service director is to the Cheneys, I think she needs to be questioned at the very, very least. And I'm glad you said everything's on the table because, or I don't want to put words in your mouth.
Everything has to be on the table, because not just because we live in a time when if there's no explanation or if there's suspicions, it's going to catch wildfire on social media, et cetera, but because the known facts of this case are so bizarre. And the person who was almost killed is someone who inspires in half the country derangement. So we have to have better answers. Now, I think people say they have to be instantaneous. There's some sensitivities here, but as I said, those people should have quit or been fired the first day because their cavalier attitude. When the Secretary of Homeland Security in his first press conference about it comes out and says, "Heck of a job, Secret Service. They're doing a great job. This is unfortunate." Why not just admit it was a conspiracy? Because that's the way it's going to be read. It's just so insane. It's so insane.
Last thing, if Vance can go from calling Trump Hitler and 8 years later his vice presidential running mate, maybe there's hope for some of those people on the Upper West Side. You never know. The East Side, they're all for him, and amazing things are happening. Mark,
you know what, Greg? How about Sunday? You and I get a bunch of MAGA hats and head up to Zabar's and see what we can do.
Oh boy. Okay. Well, we'll have to bring weapons as well.
Break it in slowly.
Thank you very much. Go to Walking.
Right, good to talk to you.
Take care, pal. Take care. We'll say goodbye to Mark as I plug his website. You got to check it out, folks. WalkingDuck.com/Mark. WalkingDuck.com/Mark. The guy truly is brilliant. And, the Game Change movies? Well, it started with a book, Game Change. I think the first one was in 2008. And, he wrote that book. It was a massive bestseller, became a movie, and the guy has sources like you don't believe. And the one thing we disagree about, though, is, well, actually, maybe we do agree about it. I don't think it's going to be Michelle anymore because it looks like such a losing battle, right? So Michelle will not sign up for a losing battle. Hey, we're going to be right back with Jason Scoop, one of our favorites. And I think the president might be coming by. I'm not kidding. President Donald Trump could be joining us very soon. I'll be right back.
Greg Kelly
on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Greg Kelly, entertaining and informative
on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Hey, I apologize, everybody. No more phone calls, but you understand why. President Trump, is making time out. He just walked into the room. President Trump, welcome. So glad you're alive.
Well, Greg, it's great to be with you. And look, we call it survival. Okay, we call it survival, and I survived, A lot of people are saying, wow, we've never seen anybody survive like that. There used to be a show, I think, might still be on the air, but it was very big about 20 years ago, Survivor. Right, the first season, a gay guy named Richard won, and it was very big all over the place. And I watched Richard, and I said, wow, I think I could do that. And as we see, I did it, and I did it on a level that really I don't think it's ever been done in terms of not dying, and it was incredible. Believe me.
Well, hey, Mr. President, I know you got a big speech. We'll let you rest your voice, okay?
Unity, so much unity.
There's going to be unity tonight,
so
right?
Much unity.
Unbelievable unity.
We're going to bring us together.
Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Good luck with the speech. Jason Scoop just walked into the room. Jason, welcome back. He's live at the Yonkers Comedy Club tomorrow night, Saturday night, and Sunday. How are you, Jason?
I am great. I was listening in the green room. You just had on Mark Helprin.
Yeah.
I had to tell this story.
Please.
Back in November 2015, Trump has a book signing. He had a book at the time, Crippled America. Some of you in the audience might remember. It was a big book. It was outlining his agenda if he were to get in 2016, which he did. And I showed him, I don't know if you know this, I have my Trump tattoo, my Trump 2016 tattoo, which I showed Donald.
Wait a second.
Yes. Yeah, this is a real tattoo.
But you showed him that in 2015?
In November 2015. I got it that summer, like shortly after he announced. I was a day one. I was a big fan from early on. And I show it to him, and he just lights up. Wow! He's like, this kid's got a tattoo. That's a big deal. He goes, I gotta win for this kid. I cannot let this guy down. He was like me and him in front of the cameras. He's holding up the book, pointing at the tattoo. He's like, yeah! He's like, look at this. And then Mark Helprin comes over. He had a show at the time called, I forget what it was called, but it was on Bloomberg with him and John Heilman. And he's like, so you're a comedian. So you want to do some jokes for our cameras? And, I did my Obama, who was in office at the time. I do a little George W. Bush. And he's like, can you do a Trump? I'm like, can I do a Trump? So I start doing my Trump, which, by the way, not as good as it was now. It's evolved. It's gotten better, but it was still decent. And he goes, would you be willing to do that in front of him? I'm like, absolutely. And he filmed me and he put it on his show. And it aired on television that night. And that was one of the greatest experiences of my life. So thank you, Mark Helprin.
I saw that clip. It's so cool. And President Trump sees the impression. He's like, very good, because he doesn't like all the impressionists.
Yes, that's right. I don't want to name drop anybody that might have done it in front of him. Maybe he didn't react as cool as he did with me. But, he seemed to really love it. And obviously I was very touched. I mean, what an honor.
I'll name drop. It was Sean Farish, I think. Yeah.
Might have been.
He does a very good, I like him, but that did not go over well with
first off, he was doing it as himself. He was doing Trump's voice. And he's like, we're going to get you elected. And I'm like, no, you're supposed to be pretending to be him. So he was doing Trump's voice, but speaking as Sean. He's like, well, we're going to work hard to get you elected, and pointing at Trump. It's like, if you're doing Trump, you have to be in character as Trump. You understand?
I totally do. Yeah. There was something, because Trump has he's got great judgment about these things. You know what I mean? Like, and he'd be like, no, that didn't work because of A, B, and C.
Right.
He knows what you know.
Precisely.
All right. So this is going to be great. I'm proud of you, man.
Thank you.
We're watching you succeed, and it's an amazing thing. And by the way, he's getting on and off private jets all the time, going to Nicaragua. Can you do you want to explain Nicaragua?
Sure. Well, I work with this influencer from time to time. This guy, Steve, will do it. Steve knows Trump. Trump is very fond of him. They have a good relationship. Trump had gone on his podcast. I think they interviewed him on Air Force One back in 2020. And, Steve he's a wild guy. He's a rambunctious guy. He's just a party animal. He's got millions of fans all around the country. He's very loved, especially by, teens and early 20s. And, Steve is a gambler, and he, sometimes he goes out there because he promotes, Roobet, which is an online thing. And he hires me to be Trump with him while he live streams. And when Trump got shot, we were live streaming in Nicaragua. So I'm sitting there in character, and we have the comments that show up because it's alive.
Yeah.
And people are like, shots fired at Trump's rally. And we're thinking, okay, it's the internet. People say stuff all the time, but we're like, what the heck is this?
Yeah.
So then the other guy in the room, he Googles it, and we see that it's real. And at first I didn't see the blood on his face. I thought it missed him. They covered him, but then I saw the blood on his face, and then we were all kind of like, just completely shell shocked. Like, we're supposed to be working here, but we're it was like an outer body experience.
Totally amazing. Well, dude, you're bringing a lot of happiness to a lot of people, and you're bringing a lot of truth to a lot of people. Jason Scoop, YonkersComedyClub.com. Check him out this weekend.